Nigel's not in his seat yet. Nigel? We're live, apparently. Make sure. Nigel's back. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, members. Before we start the formal bit, I'm sure that everyone here would like to join me in sending our deepest condolences to our chair, Mr. Rees, after sad news of the loss in his family over the festive period. I'm sure he's taking much needed time to console his family and get over the loss himself. So he's said that he can't be here obviously today and might not be here in February either, but I'm sure he'll take the time he needs and then rejoin us once as much comfort as can be given has been given. And so, welcome to this multi-locational meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee being held in the Chamber, Penachta House, and via Microsoft Teams on Tuesday, 20th of January 2026. Just to confirm, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images and audio of those individuals present and or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website. If members lose connection during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Committee services staff are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if necessary. I wish to also remind everyone that the Chair has the discretion to terminate or suspend the webcast if, in their opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings or that continued webcasting might infringe the rights of any individual. The Chair also has the right to remove persons from the physical and or digital meeting link if that is necessary. Members attending remotely, please leave on your cameras but mute your microphones. Members attending physically will be picked up on the room microphones when you're called on to speak. Members and officers should only speak after the Chair has invited them to speak on an item. Today we'll be using Microsoft Forms to vote on agenda items 3, 4, 10 and 11, where the voting poll will appear and then members are asked to click on For, Against, Abstain and click on Submit Vote. If you have any problems accessing the voting pop-up, please indicate and your vote can be taken verbally. So first of all, apologies for absence have been noted from, and do we know of any others you'd like to make us aware of? No, that's fine then. And declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Please use hands up function to indicate if you have any such declarations. And no hands up. Excellent. So next, agenda item 3, to approve and sign the minutes for accuracy of the Governance and Audit Committee held on the 13th of November 2025. Does anybody have any questions on this? I have got Joe, please.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies, everyone. I'm linking here by mobile phone because I had problems with my mic on the laptop, so there might be a bit of friction regarding that. Chair, I have two questions on the minutes. First one is number 5 and number 11. The first one is actually stating that Audit Wales would provide a formal report today. Now, I see that there is a verbal report coming, but I'm just questioning that, and perhaps we can have an explanation at the time why it isn't a formal report on the performance audit work that is stated in the minutes. So that's the question mark there. The second item 11, actually refers to the points that I raised regarding the internal audit report at the last meeting. I think it should be explained there that these were existing points. It kind of reads as if there were new points. They weren't. They were actually related to previous meetings when those two issues arose then. So I think that's a point of clarification that I would like added, please, to that item. Thank you.
Is there an officer can comment on what Joe's raised, please?
I think in terms of point 5, we need Audit Wales to update on that, so they can do that in their section on the report. And in terms of the clarification, are you happy with that, Deb? Yeah, we're happy that the minutes are amended to reflect the clarification.
Is that happy for you, Joe? So we can therefore, I'm assuming, now vote on the minutes basically as amended, is it?
Yeah, I think the minutes will need to be amended for that clarification.
Okay, so then we can now move to the vote.
Sorry, Chair.
Somebody would.
On the first point, can you just remind me where that is in the minute? I wasn't at the last meeting, but can you remind me where the page number of the pack and reference in terms of Joe's first point?
It's item 5 in the minutes in terms of.
Yeah, the NFI and Nick Rayner. Yeah, I've had a note. Yeah, Sarah Jane, who's referenced there. I did just to close off or comment on Joe's first point. I did have an email earlier today from Sarah Jane, and she confirmed that she'd emailed the council last week explaining that there won't be a written update to this committee. We do kind of quarterly updates, which you may recall. The process was changed probably about a year and a half ago. So there is a quarterly update due, which we do across the sector, and then that is shared with officers. But that is something that Sarah said she confirmed with the council last week. She doesn't say who, she just says with the council. So I'm not sure who Sarah Jane confirmed that with, but that hopefully that covers off Joe's first question.
Does it, Joe?
Yes, it does, except that there's another little question there now, isn't there, Mark? Because it actually says in this minute, that there would be a formal report update at this committee meeting in line with the protocol of providing updates twice a year, but you've just mentioned quarterly.
Right. Well, they were quarterly. If they have changed to twice a year, I'd have to check on that. I thought they're quarterly, but I can certainly take that action away and drop the clerk a clarification on twice a year or four times a year. My understanding was quarterly, but I might be wrong.
And can we then also revisit, the email that Sarah Jane sent and get that reflected somehow in the minutes, please?
Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we need somebody to move and second these minutes, please. Nigel, thank you to move. And second?
I will second, Chair.
Thanks, Mike. Councillor Adams, second. So now, yeah, you've got the poll on the screen to vote. Everyone, please. Is everybody able to vote? Oh, sorry. Any hands up for anyone? Ooh. Mine are off. Let's double check. Yep, on shush. Looks like so. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Pearson. Ooh. Come and have a look at mine. Should double check as well.
Put the volume down. Slide that up to 0. That should be off.
So, nope. There's still an echo. Should we switch this off? Please can everyone double check that their speakers are off and turn down to silent? Who's got, oh, it's, thank goodness for that. So sorry, so we have now got, yeah, the vote's been passed and Mrs. Pearson's voted for. Looks like she's now a poll appear. And so now agenda item 4, the Governance and Audit Committee Forward Work Programme. Our job is to note the Forward Work Programme and agree on any changes. So the first hands up to speak is Joe again, please. Oh no, we can't hear you again, Joe.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Right. I'm struggling with my phone mute function as well now. But anyway, yes, please, Chair. I have a couple of questions on this. Forward Work Programme and, of course, the action sheet, which is an important part of it. So would you like me to mention both of these at this point?
Yes, that's fine. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. With the Forward Work Programme, 2 points really. One is that, once again, you know, and I appreciate that there hasn't been too much time for officers to get things together here, what with the Christmas break and so on. But 2 points really are that it doesn't include items that we agreed in the working group meeting on the 12th, I think it was the 12th, maybe the 16th of December. So I would like to know when are those going to be added. And the second point is it doesn't really go far enough into the future for me, because we do need more than, you know, the work for the committee beyond the last date on this programme. So on those 2 points, that's for the Forward Work Programme. I'd like some response. The second point, which in many ways is more important to me, is the action sheet. Now, once again, you know, this has been well progressed. So I'm thankful to the officers for that, and has indeed reflected points that we raised in the working group. There are still a number of questions on it, and I'm sure that other members might well want to raise those as well. But a couple of sort of broad points that I would have is that, I mean, it's good to see the brag ratings brought in there. We agreed those in the working group. And but there are still some question marks, and I know there are an awful lot of actions on this thing. It's a big unwieldy document and very difficult to get sorted totally. But there are still a few questions. I mean, there are some items that don't have a colour at all on them. there seem to be two green shades. I don't quite understand that. And Steve Harris's initials are still on that document, which, that is just meaningless given that Steve left such a long time ago. I'm presuming that Leanne will take over the responsibilities of his actions. Then the other point that I raised earlier, there are other actions that were agreed in the working group, which aren't included on this action sheet. And, we need to make sure that those get added as well, because although they came from an informal working group, they are nonetheless very important to get progressed. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm sure that others may wish to comment as well, and perhaps the officers can respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you. Yep. So as you said, we did discuss all of this at the workshop, and I did raise at the end of the meeting that we wouldn't be able to complete the actions in time for this meeting due to Christmas leave, setting the budget, and also the time that we have to get the papers out. So we did agree at the end of that workshop that it would be a work in progress moving towards what we had discussed, but I will ensure that it is done for the following meeting. And yes, taking all of everything you've said. And in terms of the action plan, you're right. So we've started to do the brag as we agreed at the workshop. It is work in progress, and it will be updated for next time. Like Deb has been working with all the officers involved to go through those actions and update it. So again, it will follow for the next meeting. It is just a timing issue because that workshop was right before Christmas leave. And then we've come back off Christmas leave, we're setting the budget, we've got the audit of the accounts, and then to get the papers to this meeting, it's been very tight, and we did flag that before, but we have recognised everything that was discussed at the meeting, we've taken it on board, and those actions that were agreed at the workshop will be added to this action list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jo, is that okay for you?
That's fine.
There we go. Are there other questions then on the forward work programme? I'm not seeing any hands raised. Therefore, can somebody move the forward work programme, please?
Nigel?
Thanks, Nigel. Mike, are you?
Yes, I will second.
Thank you
Too
very
slow
much.
then to beat Nigel.
Therefore, we should have the vote ready. Anybody needs them? And there we go. Unanimous. Excellent. So the next item, the update for Audit Wales, a verbal update. Audit Wales, you've formally given your apologies, Mark. Do you want to come in here or just save yourself for later on in the agenda?
I'll come in briefly, Chair, on the financial audit side of things. It won't take long because we'll be picking up the Arts Centre further down the agenda, as you say. In terms of the financial audit work, we are currently undertaking the audit of the council's 24-25 accounts. We started that around about kind of midpoint of November, mid to late November, and our aim is to complete our field work by the end of this month. I think some of that may move into February, so that may happen. But that audit is ongoing, and a large percentage of it is complete in terms of testing. Just briefly on that, there's the meeting on the 2nd of Feb. That would be too early for the accounts, and you're meeting for the external panel assessment, as you were just saying. But the meeting after that is the 14th of April, and that's quite that's a good few months away from now. So it's a conversation we pick up with officers, but if possible, we'd be looking for a special, maybe a special audit committee dedicated for the accounts, which we have done in the past, I believe. So that's something that is maybe first off a conversation with officers and seeing if that's a possibility rather than waiting until the 14th of April. On the just briefly on the other side, you have six grants that we audit, and we have certified 2 of those with clean opinions, positive opinions, and the other 4, the biggest one is ongoing. That's the housing benefit, the UK scheme, housing benefit scheme. So that one's ongoing, and then there are 3 other grants which we are due to commence next month. So on the grant side of things, where you have 6 grants, that's the position there. And on the performance audit side, I commented on that earlier in comment in reply to Joe's comment. There'll be a written update from in due course on that wider, across financial audit and performance audit. So I'll stop there on the verbal update and take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions at this point for Mark? We don't have any hands up, so thank you, Mark, and we'll see you later for the other items on the agenda. And so the next item now is the annual report on the corporate complaints received from 1st of April 2024 to 31st of March 2025.
Thank you, Chair. By way of background, Cabinet at its meeting on the 24th of March 21 adopted the current corporate complaints policy, along with an updated policy dealing with unacceptable and unreasonable actions by complainants. Copies of these are included at Appendix 1 of this report for members' information. This report sets out details of the corporate complaints dealt with for the annual period of the 1st of April 24 to the 31st of March 25. The corporate complaints policy consists of an internal 2-stage process, with the right for a complainant to refer their complaint to the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales should they remain dissatisfied. Since my last complaints update to the committee, a new complaints intranet area has been introduced for officers, providing additional guidance on dealing with complaints. The corporate complaints policy deals with corporate complaints only. There are separate complaints processes for dealing with social services complaints and school-based complaints. A copy of the relevant scrutiny report outlining the social services complaints for the same annual period is linked at Appendix 2 for members' information. In addition, Freedom of Information Act, Environmental Information Regulations, and data protection complaints also have separate complaints processes. Information in respect of these complaints for the same period are included as Appendix 3, which we will circle back to. Before I go further in relation to this period, there were a number of questions raised in respect of the last 6-month complaints report, which I can provide updates on. A question was asked, what can we do to stop matters becoming complaints? This issue was raised at the Learning from Complaints group. We found that most complaints could be avoided with clear communication, empathy, and early action. I have turned the discussion of the group into a draft 1-page preventing complaints staff guide. This will be discussed further / refined at the next Learning from Complaints group, prior to distribution and publishing on our new complaints intranet. There was also a number of queries on lessons learned from the last complaints report, which I have updates on. In respect of the comments in respect of housing and that inspectors are not to state timescales when surveying a property, Housing have informed me that it is the surveyor's job to determine what work is to be done and then the planner's job to plan the actual work. The comment made was not to imply timescales are not to be provided, but about providing accurate information which would come from planners, not surveyors. The next one was about housing and the issue where a property was left by workers without a working toilet. The toilet was actually fitted by the out-of-hours service. Housing agreed that it is not acceptable to leave a property without a working toilet. Should the out-of-hours service not have been able to resolve, then other options would have been considered, such as those mentioned at the last committee. The final one is education and the issues with the SMS system. The service area has confirmed that a full review of the system was carried out in order to understand the cause of the error. Once the system error was located, the system was fully retested. The service is confident that this issue or similar will not occur again. Okay, so back to this report in this period. We've made some changes in its presentation that hopefully members will agree are an improvement. All statistics are now located in the main body of the report, and the appendices are reserved for directorate explanation and executive directors' summaries. In 5.7, it is highlighted that in this period we received a total of 917 corporate complaints, which is a significant increase from 559 from the previous year. The directorate with the highest increase was Economy and Environment, with increases in complaints in respect of green waste and mist refuge collections noted in Appendix 4. Housing also experienced a significant increase in complaints, but these were somewhat shared across their services. In 5.8, a breakdown is provided showing complaints received by service and directorate. Economy and Environment received the highest number of complaints at 538, and then Housing, who received 281. In 5.9, we look at how complaints are received, with 518 complaints received via the online complaints form. In 5.10, we look at the percentage of complaints completed within target by directorate. Overall, 90% of complaints received were completed within target. In 5.11, we look at the outcome of complaints by directorate, with 358 complaints upheld or partly upheld, and 495 complaints not upheld. In 5.12, we look at complaints received by category. Significant categories of note include delay in service provision, quality of work, following the Council's policies/relevant legislation, and decision making. In 5.13, we identify the relationship between corporate complaints and equalities or Welsh language issues, of which there were 21 complaints received, which raised equalities or Welsh language issues. And finally, in 5.14, we look at the numbers and outcomes of Ombudsman referrals. And out of the 63 cases referred to the Ombudsman, 49 were not investigated, and 12 resulted in an early resolution. Over to Appendix 3. As members requested, we have included an update on information governance complaints. During the 1st of April 24 to the 31st of March 25 annual period, we received a total of 30 complaints. As outlined in Table 1, 9 complaints received were in relation to the processing of freedom of information or environmental information regulation requests. This is from a total of 1,321 information requests received by the authority during this period. 7 complaints received were in relation to the processing of data subject rights requests. This was from a total of 131 information rights requests received by the authority during this period. And we also received 14 complaints which were received in relation to alleged data protection breaches. All of these complaints have a one-stage internal process, and if the complainant remains dissatisfied, they have the right to refer to the Information Commissioner's Office. Overall, 90% of these complaints were completed within target. In Table 2, it is outlined how these complaints were received. In Table 3, we outline the common themes of these complaints, with disagreements with exemptions refusal being the most common for internal reviews, and personal data being inappropriately shared for data protection breach complaints. In Table 4, we detail the outcome of these complaints, with 12 cases where the complaint was upheld or partly upheld, and 18 cases where the complaint was not upheld. In Table 5, we detail the lessons learned in respect to those cases where the complaint was upheld or partly upheld. And in Table 6, we detail the outcome of the 2 cases where the complainant referred the case to the Information Commissioner's Office, who did not uphold either complaint. It is not my intention to go through all the remaining directorate appendices to this report, but if members have any questions on these or any elements of this report, I will do my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So, do you have questions on this report? So, Mr. Yates?
Thank you for that report. Very detailed. Lots of information. I know our objective is to get the complaints down to 0. That's not humanly possible. How do we compare as an authority to are we doing in this line of the work we got to contend with?
I couldn't quite catch it. Was it how we compare as an authority to others?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Sorry?
No,
Yeah.
it's how Caerphilly compares to other local authorities in terms of
comparable authorities, obviously.
comparable data.
I believe that the corporate complaints data is collated by the Ombudsman. So perhaps on the future report, I could include an appendices where there's a summary of that information.
Would that be sufficient? That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you for
Carl.
that.
Yeah.
And then next is Joe, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, checking again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to, this might sound a bit strange from me, but I do want to compliment you on this report. It's excellent. And the amount of the additional information and the way it's been presented is so very, very useful. And I really think it's you know, your report here would be a model indeed for other authorities as well. It's excellent. So thank you very much. The one concern, of course, that it illustrates really is this big increase in the complaints in the Environment and Economy Directorate. And I'm just wondering, you know, do you have anything to say about the reasons for that, please?
Yeah, if you could just bear with me a second. So, in the Appendix 4, is outlined that a number of the recycling complaints in respect of stuff not being collected was because the contents of the bin was contaminated, and relevant advice would have been provided before the next collection has taken place. There was also been parking issues which prevented collections and vehicle breakdowns, which resulted in an increase in complaints.
Right.
So,
And those, sorry, if I can just ask, those would have been, you know, first-time complaints then, were they? Or are there any, and I know that there are lessons learned here, you know, across the report, but would there be any then ways of maybe trying to reduce that big increase in complaints in that directorate in the future?
Yes, that's something that we can look at with the directorate moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
thanks, Joe. And next, Mrs. Pearson.
Thanks, Chair. Carl, I'd just like to say thank you very much because it is a very comprehensive report, and especially for my ask of actually putting some information in there about the Freedom of Information environmental regs and the data protection complaints. You know, I have to say it's a really good piece of work, and I'd just like to reiterate what Joe has said. In saying that, is it possible, in the same way as you gather information on the corporate complaints side, to be able to have those cases broken down by directorate?
Yeah, that's something I think our system could accommodate. Yeah, that's something I can look at and see what we can do on the next 6-month update for you.
Thanks very much, Carl. And then following on, I've just got 2 quick questions, all right? And it's about, can you just explain, I suppose, that in the one table where it says common themes of complaints, and we talk about the personal data being shared externally inappropriately. So can I just confirm this is where the council is the controller and has potentially lost control of the data, because there appears to be 9 instances?
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes, there's 9 instances, and these could be a mix. It could be a fact that the complainant is complaining that we shared their information with a third party, and the complainant believes this was inappropriate in some way, or it could be the examples of a piece of information being lost, etc., where we've lost control.
Okay. So taking that example then, can you talk me through how those 9 are represented in point 4, which is the outcome of complaints, and then following on from that, explain where that is in point 5, the lessons learnt? Just talk me through one example so I can see it.
Right. Yeah, I can see your point. It's quite difficult to follow individual cases through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've done it by total. So out of the total of the 14 data protection breach complaints, only 9 of which were in relation to inappropriately shared information.
Yeah.
6 of those complaints were upheld or partly upheld. And then on the bottom table, yes, about halfway down is the first case. Data
Yeah.
protection breach complaint, data personal data is inappropriately shared external.
Yeah.
Disclosure of the complainant's identity to a third party. It was not recognised as being personal data as it is related to a business activity. Relevant
Okay.
staff member to complete further training in respect of the meaning of personal data.
So in that case, can you just talk me through that's what the situation was, and you've got your lessons learned.
Yeah.
From a corporate perspective, what oversight do you have that the action that you've recommended is actually being taken?
We actually carried out the training with the member of staff.
Right. Good. Okay, and then that's documented, so that's brilliant. It's just my concern was I couldn't count the 9 and I couldn't count the 6 in the lessons learned bit, so it's whether they've been lumped together, I don't know. But if you could make that a little bit more obvious, and it's only a minor thing, that would be really, really great. And then going to the complaints report in its entirety, I suppose following on from that point, is what assurances do you have in terms of corporate complaints ownership that the actions across the piece from those lessons learned are actually being put in place in any of the directorates, whether they be to do with waste collection, etc., etc.?
That's something I'm going to have a little think about. It's not something, obviously, with the number of complaints, I can't look at each individual item like I can with the data protection to make sure that they are in place. So I suppose over time is to see if there is a reduction in complaints in those areas, if the service is learning their, lessons are learned. There are some changes I want to do in respect of lessons learned, where we are clear what lessons are going to be learned. Is it something that is gone back to the individual? Is it something that the team needs to learn? Is it something like a policy change? Or is it something of an all authority lesson learned? So then with those marking of those lessons learned, and now we should be able to have some oversight then that they are in place.
Oh, and that sounds absolutely perfect, doesn't it? In terms of closing that circle. Yeah, really good work. Thanks, Carl, very much.
Okay, thanks, Viv.
So next up is Councillor Chacken-Dawson. Marina?
Yeah, apologies for the camera. I've got a poor connection.
No problem.
First of all, why did the complaint page 48? Why did the complainant get £150? What? Why are we not ensuring the change to the system has improved, and that's improved the experience for everybody else? And surely this should be reward enough, unless, of course, we cause the costs, which would be applicable, which would be appropriate. I'll get an answer to that question first before I ask the others.
Yeah. Just bear with me while I catch page 58, you said, of the report.
No, 48.
48, sorry.
Yes.
I believe the compensation payment in that particular part refers to compensation that the Ombudsman ordered that we give to the complainant.
Right. All right. So they ordered it. Right. Okay. I just trying to understand how the system works. Why the payment? I didn't understand, but maybe you don't understand the Ombudsman's process. I don't know. Do you?
I don't, unfortunately, off the top of my head, but this is something that we are looking to put into a guidance sort of document. So I am exploring this at the moment, actually, due to a query of a service area. So we're hoping to put a guidance document in relation to compensation payments together, hopefully a corporate document in respect of complaints.
That'd be very useful, yeah. Thank you. And do we check to find out if the people are finding the process useful, easy to use and effective? Do we ever survey that, ask people how they find the system? Because I noticed a few complaints about not being told how to progress the complaint. So obviously some people are not understanding the system. So do you ask them how their experience is when they've made a complaint?
We don't at the moment, but that is something that perhaps we can do in regular occurrences for like a month to just get a feeling of the complainants, off and on over the coming years.
Okay, that's brilliant. And and about page 49, do you think that there's been an escalation of stage 2 complaints because of staff shortages, making it difficult for them to deal with the complaints in the required time? Page 49.
I think it's probably from a wide range of issues, which would include probably staff shortages.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah.
So, Marina, is that the end of your questions?
Oh, there was a question that I thought had been answered, but listening to Vivian's questions, perhaps it wasn't. The idea that you could give a couple of examples of complainants. Obviously, you wouldn't expose any confidential information, but from the beginning to the end, like randomly choose a couple of examples from the beginning to the end to demonstrate the process exactly as it runs through the system, and to see if it, just to show that it's effective, basically. I don't know if that's an option or not.
Yeah, that's something I can have a look at anyway.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
So there's no other raised hands. So thank you very much indeed, Carl. I've just got one sort of question myself. It's kind of a bit of a follow-up to Marina's with regarding this £150 redress for inconvenience in terms of how it happens, because the start of it says there were the ombudsman referrals, and then 15 were not investigated, then 4 resulted in early resolutions that were agreed as follows. So those early resolutions, is that the ombudsman directing the response, or is that actually the council volunteering the response and the ombudsman saying they're happy with it?
No, that would be the ombudsman giving a list of recommendations, which the council then has to accept, which they have on all of those, and following those recommendations, whether it's like a letter of apology, a compensation, or wherever.
Okay, so there's a distinction then between where the ombudsman investigates and where the ombudsman suggests an early resolution that's agreed to. Is that what's happened here?
Yes.
Right, thanks for the clarification. Yeah. And thanks, Echo, in terms of the report, it's what we've been looking for compared to what we received a few years ago, because it's now crystal clear in the same format. And thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you.
So this one is just for noting, so no vote is required. And the next item on our agenda now is the counter fraud update from Deb Grono, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. So
This is a regular report that comes to committee that provides you with an update on counter-fraud activities or progress against a previously agreed action plan. Just a couple of highlights in the report. Basically, we have lost one member of staff who was tasked with a lot of this part of their role. So we've had to take some consideration now to how that's going to be addressed within our current staffing capacity. And you were aware as well that you had a presentation from the NFI at the last meeting, and we're currently working with the NFI on completing the matches on this year, and also I've been working with the NFI on some work they're doing to enhance the next offer of the next data match in it's going to be 2026. Oh yeah, later this year then, in fact, yeah. Okay, so I'm happy to take questions.
So the hands are up, and the first one is Joe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deborah, for this. I've got two questions, really, essentially. The June report had two additional recommendations on it, which aren't at the beginning of the appendix, which aren't actually on this report. And one of those was about risk being properly addressed. And the comment at the time was that a process to embed fraud risk into risk assessment and reporting was ongoing. But there's no actual comment on this report regarding that item. So I'd like an update on that, please. And then the second point, of course, is I'm sure others are noting this, the loss of your key member of staff. And so I'd like more comment on that from you, please, as to the issue that's causing, and how are you seeking to address it? Thank you.
Okay, with respect to your first question, the top comment was in regard to improving monitoring. So a fraud risk register was published and it was reported to you a while ago. We were working with the risk management team on looking at overall risk management processes. A specific audit was performed, and as a result of that, that was reported to the leadership team. And there's been a task and finish group looking at overall aspects of risk management, and consideration is going to be given to how fraud risk is going to be included in the overall risk register, and that's currently a work in progress.
Can I just ask, Chair, but what is the reason for not including that on this particular appendix? I wondered.
Apologies, that may be my oversight.
Okay.
I thought it was addressed later on. Like that could be my mistake. So apologies for that. I can ensure that it's included in the next update.
Thank you.
Joe, has that completed your questions?
Sorry, that answers the first question I had. I'd like you to comment then on the second, please, Deborah.
Yeah, so as you know, the council is setting the budget at the moment, and we are all being asked to look at our structures and our resources, and internal audit are also part of that process. So at the moment, I've decided not to fill that vacancy, and I'm working with Deb to look at how we resource that going forward.
Thank you, Diane. I think, Chair, it needs to be just noted that I will be returning to this question with the next report that's coming up on the internal audit. Thank you for the moment on that.
Thank you. I'm sure it's been noted by everyone. So next we've got Councillor Chacken-Dawson again. Marina, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. What are we doing to find or gain specialist skills with the new or already present staff related to counter fraud?
Well, earlier on today, I attended the All Wales Local Authority Fraud Officers Forum, where we had a presentation from DWP on work that can be done, joint working with the DWP on various aspects of investigation, and a number of issues were discussed there where a lot of referrals are actually being found from the NFI that have been referring across the DWP and are highlighting instances of fraud. Obviously, we raise and scanning. We become aware of issues as they arise and act appropriately when, as and when we know about them and we can mitigate them.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was talking about staff skills. I know are you talking about intelligence? But I was specifically relate that question to staffing skills.
Okay.
We've lost important members of staff.
Yes. So that ties up with the comment Jan made on the previous question. That's something that we're going to be looking at and seeing what resources we've got and what training is available to see what can be provided to upskill the existing staff in the section.
Brilliant, thank you. There was another question as well about the pooling with resources. Is that the organisations you've just mentioned, or did it relate to like sharing skills and resources with other public sector organisations?
Okay, so following the presentation that my former member of staff made to the management network, I was approached by a number of officers, and one of which was some staff from Trading Standards, and they employ investigators in slightly different aspect of investigations of Trading Standard breaches. And we actually did work with them on a particular issue regarding tracing a member of the public out there that had made some claims for council tax reduction scheme and had not declared certain capital. And it actually turned out that they had other capital and properties outside the borough, which they were able to trace for us. And we made a referral to DWP, and they are now investigating that. So we made connections with those officers. And, should the opportunity arise again in a relevant situation, we now know that those skills and abilities exist within the authority, and we can make contact with them again and look to use them in future.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. I'm trying to get the wrong things. How's the hands up? So the only question I've got is there a minimum number of people needing to have this sit for training that we need on the council? And are we sure we've got the relevantly qualified people to meet any of our regulatory, etc., compliance requirements?
As far as I'm aware, there's no compulsory requirements for this level of training. It's something that's discretionary and is obviously subject to staffing resources and other financial resources, and the training courses being available out there as well. So it's a bit of a balancing act.
Thanks. It's just wherever your professional qualifications, you always wonder if there's rules and requirements. Thank you very much indeed for that. So we've got no further questions, and this is for noting only. So thanks very much for the update, Deb. And next we have got the update on the progress against the Internal Audit Services Annual Plan 2025 to 2026. Deb, again, please.
Thank you. This is a regular report that comes to committee, so you should be fairly familiar with the content, and I'll take most of it as read. I think I did put a little bit more information
that was requested following the workshop that was took place in December. I appreciate that that might be a little bit of a work in progress in terms of what the committee's asking for and how we can actually meet those requests. So the report's in quite a lot of detail. It mentions a number of pieces of work that we've undertaken that weren't planned, that's resulted on impact on planned work, but some of this unplanned work is considered to be high risk, a higher priority, so it took up priority in terms of resources. Considerable piece of work was done in respect of social services, home care, charging and income, which was a piece of work identified as in the transformation stream. We've also been approached by the police in respect of some data gathering and investigation in respect of historic transactions related to a former employee. And we were also working with the NHS on a joint piece of work, and obviously all that has impact on our times and resources. And as was mentioned in the previous report, one of the service auditors resigned their position, and this post is currently not being filled. So that led to a loss of about 14 days in the period to December 2025, and obviously will result in further days for the remainder of the year. That member of staff was involved in direct audit work plus planning, supervision and conduct of work, and was also responsible for the majority of the counter fraud work. So we have one member of staff who did the technician's qualification, so we have some resource still available within the team, but not at such a high level. And various appendix are attached to the report showing the detail of the plan, the work that's been concluded and the opinions that have been generated, and incomplete work to date. So if there are any questions, I'd like to come up on the floor. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Deb. So first hand up is Mrs. Jo Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deborah, for the report. I have questions on all of the appendices, actually. It's probably the best place to anchor them. And with the first one, in your report on 5.6, you do flag up the fact that there were a number of pieces of unplanned work. I'd like just a bit more information on those in terms, or certainly on the most significant. And the way I'm reading it, the most significant was probably the social services one. And you do say, I'm wondering if I'm reading this right, you do say that it took up most of Q3. I don't quite know what you mean by that. Do you mean it took up the whole resources of your team for Q3, or is there some other meaning that I'm missing? So that's that particular point. But I will just complete my questions on Appendix 1 then, if I may, Chair, in the same vein, really, which is those unplanned pieces of work. You know, they are shown at the bottom of the plan document. It would be helpful to know, how much resource they've taken up, and indeed have they been completed now? It's not entirely clear, although you may wish to clarify for me what the position is with them. But there is no information there about the resources required, or except that a number of items have been deferred as a result. Again, I'd like to know the rationale that you applied in taking those deferral decisions, and when will those deferred items then be dealt with? When will those audits happen? A couple of them do look quite serious audits to me, particularly the housing one, for example, the overpayments. And I'd just like some comment around that, please, Deborah. Maybe, if I may, Chair, I'll leave those couple of questions, which are in connection with 5.6 and Appendix 1. I'll leave those with you first, if I may.
So the social services work took up the bulk of the systems team, my time, service auditors' time, and 2 members of staff there. The establishment team carried on as normal, fulfilling their normal role. So that that exercise was raised as an issue, I said, arising from a transformation piece of work on income generating and charging, and involved two main pieces of work. One was data validation of residents charging assessed income, payments that were being made within a historic old system that was causing problems in terms of reliability of its data. And then a second piece of work was undertaken in respect of an overall system review and looking at improvements on the process. So that was fed back into that particular stream of the transformation exercise, being very well received, I think I'd like to say. And arising from that now is some further work in respect of overall debt and income recovery within the authority. So that's just at a very early stage at the moment, and the transformation manager is just working on that. So that did take a considerable period of time through that quarter. Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
If I can just dwell on that a moment again, please, Deborah. Why wasn't that then, if it was such a significant piece of work, why wasn't it foreseen when you were putting your audit plan together at the start of the year?
Because, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, to be honest, and if I did, I'd have tonight's lottery tickets. We're not, you know, I mean, sorry, that sounds a bit facetious, but, you know, it wasn't known or identified at the time that the plan was raised.
I don't mean why didn't you foresee it? What I mean is, why didn't the transformation management or whoever was responsible for bringing this to your attention, why didn't they foresee it? Why wasn't the risk, if this is supposed to have been, therefore, you know, deserving of such a lot of your resource, why wasn't the risk, raised at an earlier point so that you could have planned that work more effectively, perhaps?
I'll come here, thank you. So it wasn't flagged as a risk in leadership when we were preparing the audit plan at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year what happened was we had a number of the team leader went off sick. We had a number of vacancies in the team that made it was unable to keep up. It created a backlog. And then when that backlog got flagged to us as leadership, we saw that it was a significant issue, and that's when we decided to get the internal audit involved, because it had escalated.
Thank you. Sorry, Deborah, did you want me to clarify my second point?
Yep, if you want. Yep, go on.
I would like to, yes. The impact then of those unplanned items of work, and you still haven't really clarified, although you've talked about the social services one with the others, how much time and how many days they have taken up. But obviously it's significant because there have been a number of deferred items as a result. So I wondered if you could comment on, you know, the approach that was taken in making those items deferred, and when will they be dealt with?
Well, I think they'll go in the pots now for review with any items. I've already emailed round to the directors and requested that they put any potential items for the audit plan into their leadership team. Mark has already said that I think it might be this week. So when we have that, we will be looking at those and what we've already got that hasn't been completed, matching that, you know, risk assessing those and matching that to resources, and looking at what we've got, what we'd like to do, resources we've got, and what we can actually do within the resources we've got. Obviously, you know, Leanne will feed into that as well, so she may have some comments.
Thank you. Yeah. What I'll just add is, obviously, been discussing with Deborah about next year's forward work plan, and we're actually going to do it a little bit differently this year, in that we will be building in some time for these kind of emerging ones that come up in the year, to allow time for that. And, you know, picking up on the point earlier that we made, we are looking at resources and how we resource this and how we're going to prioritise, because we can't audit everything, so it is about that risk assessment.
and you know, I've just had something come out over the last sort of couple of weeks about another risk area, you know, request to look at something. So that's going to have an impact on what we can do between now and the end of March. So that will be probably coming out in the year-end report on activities. We've just started a piece of work now.
Sorry, I would just
Thank
come
you.
back in. I think what I'm hearing from you is what you want is the assurance of when deferred items come back onto a plan, and you want to know the rationale about how when we remove them and an estimate of the time that's taken for the ones that are being added on. So that's something I can definitely take away and make sure that comes back so that you have that assurance in terms of that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Yes, that would be very helpful. I would just say that is all that's what you would normally expect to see in a regular report. So it's not as if it's something special that I'm asking for. I think it's part and parcel of information that should be put up front before us. I have a couple of more questions, please, Chair, if you would bear with me.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So can we talk now, or can you comment, please, further on this point about the member of staff who has left? Because once again, you comment in your report on this and you give us information, useful information indeed, to say that some 100 days work is going to be lost because of that event, which occurred in October when that member of staff left. And then you also go on to say, and you've already said, that it's been decided not to fill the vacancy. I am very concerned about that decision not to fill that vacancy. Anyone can see that this is having significant effect and will continue to do so into future years. The internal audit function is crucial for the authority, even more crucial as times get tough and staff numbers are reducing, etc. And so, you know, I do want you to comment as officers wish on that point. It seems to me to be a very concerning approach to what is a very crucial function in the authority and a senior member of staff to boot. So I'd like more views on that one, please. And then I'll add Appendix 2 in, if I may, for you to also respond to. Again, this is kind of a straightforward item. There are limited opinions there on Appendix 2. These are the reports that have been completed, the audits completed. And there are, I don't know, there's 4 maybe, limited reviews. Now, we have asked, and we asked again in the working group, to get the information on those limited reviews, please. And I ask, when is that coming to us? Thank you.
Can I answer your second part first, please? So, yes, it was discussed, and I know you've raised it previously, and it was discussed at the working party. Now, please clarify if I'm not quite right, but I don't know whether we actually did agree how those were to be distributed to yourselves. So I think that's something perhaps we just need to clarify on, you know, how that's information on those specific audits are to be presented, in what format, when, and yeah. So I'll be happy to take your comments on that or your thoughts to see if you've got an opinion on what was actually agreed at the time.
Well, would you like me to give you that now? Because I'm perfectly happy to do so, yes. You know, we discussed this again in the working group. We talked about it being shared, these reviews being shared in an informal capacity with us, if that's better, if you feel that's more comfortable, that's fine. And but we did want, I think it was commented that we would like to see the full reviews, exactly what you give to the management.
Yeah.
So I think that's my position, and that's where that's what we reached in the latest discussions about it.
Yeah, we can. I can get those circulated. It's not a problem. Available.
Thanks, Joe. So I'll just come back in on the resourcing one. So as I said, I am looking at the resourcing of internal audit and how we do it differently. With leadership, we're also looking at the risk. Like we said, we've got a task and finish group where we're looking at our risk and our risk appetite. And we are looking forwards to next year's audit plan, where we'll be looking at which audits we will do, and then we will have a review on the resourcing. Nobody's saying it's not key and essential. We definitely recognise that, but ultimately the organisation is shrinking. We are losing a number of staff, and the financial services are not immune to that either. So I am having to look at how we do things differently, how we can work more efficiently, making the most of technology, the systems that we're using, all ways to make sure we can do more with less. So yeah, I guess it's a case of I'm looking at the structure and seeing how we can make it operate and fit for purpose going forward. Does that answer your question?
That explains. Excuse me. That explains your approach. Thank you for that. When will your views on that and your conclusion on that become clear then in the budget in the budget draft that goes to council shortly?
It's unlikely to be for the draft. The draft's already published. I may have reread the final, but it's unlikely because we're still looking at the audit plan as a leadership team at the moment. So it will probably be more for next year. But I am working towards managing and restructuring within my budget envelope, which is, does not include that post. But that doesn't mean I won't have that number of senior staff. It just means that overall my envelope is different, it's less, and I will restructure accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Chair, I have one final question, if I may.
yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Appendix 3, which is the summary of the reviews that are in progress. Just a couple of points on this. Some of those are actually completed according to the appendix. So they're not in progress, they're completed. And then the others are, the audit has been approved and the audit is about to start. So given that this is the position, at the end of December and it's pretty much up to date, I'd like to hear your comment, please, Deborah and Leanne, of course, on how do you see Q4 panning out now? Given, your reduced resources and given the impact from those unplanned items and given the rather long list of Appendix 3, which again is not entirely clear what resource is going to be needed to complete those audits. But are you expecting to have those audits completed by the end of March, or is there going to be a significant amount of work carried forward into 26/7, please?
Right, so I apologise for possibly misleading terminology, but where an audit is marked as completed, that means a draft report has gone out and we haven't had the final report back. So the amount of work required for those is going to be quite minimal. Some of these are a fair way through and we're just waiting for further information to conclude them. For example, a lot of the NFI reports, it looks like a lot of work, but some of those are significantly progressed. What else have we got? Pentonville Primary, for example, the audit's just been completed and I've completed the quality review on that and I've asked the staff to draft the report, so that will be going out. St Kenneth is next week and Eastline High School is straight after. So yeah, I think that we will make significant progress on these, and basically I think that the ones that we probably won't be able to complete are ones that will be started in March, late March, because obviously we just time will be of the essence there. But those that are new that are significant progress has already been made, I'm confident that they will be, if not closed, they will be completed, which means the draft report will be issued before the end of March. And obviously there are other audits that will be started that are not on this list because they weren't in the planning stage at the time this information was drawn down.
And this is despite the expected 60 days lost because of the member of staff leaving.
I've been absorbing the planning and review part of that person's role. So some of that has been absorbed by myself. So there will be some actual resource time that won't be able to be absorbed. At the moment, I'm still working that through in terms of what work that person was doing. Some of the fraud and risk work can be absorbed by the other service auditor who's got experience in risk management and those areas. So I intend that they're working at the moment on the task finish group on risk management. And once that's concluded, that I think they'll take on that work. So we'll see how that develops now when that task finish group concludes. So yes, there will be an impact. I think it'll be more apparent next year because a lot of these audits were already planned out, and we're just concluding, starting and concluding them. So I think the full impact will be seen from the 1st of April onwards, when we actually do push the full resource impact through the entire year's plan.
Okay. Thank you very much for your responses, officers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joe. And any other, got back to the screen, there are no other hands up, so we're all happy with the responses there. So that was another one for noting only and no vote required. And now we're moving on to item 9, the update on the internal audit report recommendations. This is another one for Deb, thank you.
Yep, thank you, members. Thank you, Chair. This is another regular report that comes to committee and provides you with information and updates on the number, status and risk rating of the recommendations that we have issued out in respect of our finalised closed audit reports up until the end of December. This shows the status of all recommendations that are in progress. That means that the managers have actually agreed to implement an action and have agreed a date, and those dates are running, and also shows how many recommendations we've got in respect of they've been raised in draft. That's actually the field work that's been done, and where the draft reports have been issued, and we're waiting commentary or agreement from the managers. So I'm pleased to say that we've only got a very small number of actually overdue recommendations. I think staff and officers and managers have been very diligent in trying to respond to us in respect of the overdue recommendations that were reported at the last committee. So we've only got, I think it's a very small number of overdue recommendations, particularly in respect of one establishment where we are working with education, and we've been contributing to the team around the schools to support the school in that. So yeah, I'll take questions on any specific items that members have got queries on.
So in this case, Councillor John Taylor, please.
Thank you, Chair. Deb, with that one particular one where those 3 are still outstanding and they've been outstanding for quite a while, I know at a previous meeting, if I remember correctly, you said that there had been some staffing issues which had prevented all the recommendations being implemented. But how confident are you that they will soon be completed?
I think there's only 3, and we've been discussing that with education and the support service as well, that the queries relate to with regard to pointing the head and the various support staff in the school in the right direction to get these things implemented. So I'm confident that there's no real issue there. There was a significant delay because of I said some staff absences, which was quite significant, and team around the school were brought in to support the school, and they've been working with the school on a number of other issues as well as this. So I'm really hopeful that these particular three will be resolved very, very soon.
Thanks very much.
You happy, John? And next we've got Mr. Nigel Yates, please.
2 questions. One is on item 520. Could you explain why something has happened in 2023 and still ongoing? There's obviously some problem there. Just
yes, that is the issue that Councillor Taylor was just referring to. So the audit took place. Then there was a significant delay in resolving the reports because of absences within the location. And we then had to work with education and team around the school to get these issues resolved. So I think this is the exception, I think, rather than the rule. But I think what's good to note is that where you get these instances, that education have been very supportive and being open to working with us to get these matters resolved. And it's not something that we see a lot of. It definitely is the exception rather than the rule.
Thank you. The other question is on the where are we on the data? The outstanding recommendations. Your one item there is ICQ. Could you explain what that means? ICQ.
Oh, internal control questionnaire.
All right.
So what those are a type of light touch audit that we go out to establishments that we don't have the resource to visit, do a full audit of everything. So we go with the key high level internal controls. We sit with the establishment manager or the location manager and understand by asking key questions that they are implementing the level of internal controls that we would expect to maintain an adequate level of control environment, so that we can say that there is, we can gain assurance from the processes. Obviously, if they say that they don't understand the questions or they don't have those controls in place, then we report accordingly. But what we don't do with those, we don't do any detailed in-depth testing of the actual processes. We just establish whether or not the controls are actually in place.
So that's why you've got so many issues to resolve, and coming back from that.
Yes, they can raise a lot of issues, but the thing is, we have got 82 schools, which is considerable. So they do take up a lot of resource, and you've got 82 in different individual ways of, within the framework, obviously, but so it does take up. It's a considerable resource demand, really. We try and do them on a cycle, so 20 to 25 a year, I think, if I'm correct.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
So, he's trying to tell me something. There aren't any other hands up. The only question I had, if I may, is on the outstanding recommendations table. I think, so you're saying with the ICQ ones, those recommendations then, are they what the institution itself is recommending that they need to do for themselves?
No. We've got a set of standard questionnaire, internal control questionnaire, which we apply to every similar location, and they're assessed against that standard expectation. And where there are weaknesses of any sort, then we report accordingly and recommend that improvements are made, that recommended actions are implemented.
And then with regards to the ones that are showing outstanding, because we had the previous one that was sort of outstanding, could perhaps, I don't know, maybe it's a simple table again to make sure that these ones aren't, if you like, going beyond any sort of deadline that the relevant organisation here has to actually implement those. Because if you look at the numbers, for example, a slightly alarming highs, for example, number, therefore, are we confident that those issues are on track, if you like, to be resolved and the recommendation implemented in the appropriate time frame, please?
Yes. we don't have a blanket sort of approach to them all. We will take them into consideration with in light of the individual circumstances at each location and agree a due date. And the system we've got will issue out automatic reminders as that due date approaches, and also as that due date becomes overdue. And, you know, I'll pick that up every month, and sometimes we do a manual intervention. You know, can you just ring and find out where they are with this one particular thing? I mean, they might say, oh, I was going to write a policy, or that this needs to go to a management committee, and we're not having that meeting for, you know, a certain period of time. So, you know, we can't get that recommendation to be implemented until another event happens, or till a process is devised or a policy is written. So we try to bear those in mind when we agree the dates, because there's no point in agreeing unachievable dates. But, you know, we do take into account the dates to just make sure that, you know, that the can isn't being kicked down the road on a you know, extensive basis, that, you know, actually those dates are realistic and they will be achievable.
So therefore, these ones on this page, then, have they gone past that agreed due date or not?
No, they haven't, not yet. Although we did have a number of recommendations that did fall due at the 31st of December. So at the time this was extracted, they weren't actually overdue. So we will be looking at those now, well, at the moment in January, to see where we stand with those. And obviously you'll be getting an update then at the next time this report comes to the committee.
Lovely, thanks a lot. It's just in my own head trying to find out outstanding, overdue, you know, words that have similar meanings. And so making sure I've got the right context.
Outstanding means incomplete. Overdue means that it's incomplete, but it hasn't reached, it's gone over the date that was previously agreed that they would implement it.
Lovely, thanks very much for clarifying, Deb. So I'm just checking on the right page in this computer. No other hands raised. We're all happy, think. So therefore, another again, noting, and thank you very much indeed, Deb. And now item 10, the Blackwood Miners Institute Audit Wales Inquiries Return, 2023-24. Leanne to present, please.
Thank you. I'm presenting the reports relating to the Blackwood Arts Centre, locally known as Blackwood Miners Institute. 23-24 represents a significant year for the charity, as for the first time its gross income exceeded the charity commission threshold of £1 million, triggering the requirement for a full external audit of the annual accounts. In previous years, BMI's accounts were subject only to an independent examination, reflecting lower income levels and a more limited level of assurance. The charity's accounts are hosted and administered through Caerphilly County Borough Council, with the council also providing an annual financial subsidy to meet any cash deficits arising from operations. Because the charity operates fully within the council's financial system and uses the authority's central bank account, it has not previously been possible to separate out a specific cash position for the BMI, an issue raised in an earlier examinations and again highlighted by Audit Wales in year. As members will have seen, Audit Wales have issued a disclaimer of opinion on the 23-24 financial statements due to their inability to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. The disclaimer arises from three key matters: the lack of a specific bank account and financial ledger for the charity, the absence of a fixed asset register with supporting financial ledger transactions, and a high rate of error in income accounting. These are set out in the basis for disclaimer section of the audit report and summarised within your papers. Audit Wales have also made 5 recommendations, all of which that have been accepted by officers. Due to the timing of the 23-24 audit, it will not be possible to address these for 24-25 or 25-26 accounts, but these will be resolved in advance of producing the 26-27 financial statements. Alongside the statutory reporting, BMI have been the subject of a wider review through the Council's transformation programme, with the aim of improving long-term sustainability and reducing subsidies levels. A feasibility study was commissioned, and on the 10th of December 2025, Cabinet, acting as trustee, agreed to progress option 4, which includes undertaking a market testing exercise during 2026 for alternative operating models. The annual report before you also highlights BMA's operational performance during 23-24, which included strong audience numbers and continued post-pandemic recovery, with capacity levels rising as high as 86% during the autumn season. The two reports you have today serve different purposes. The Audit Wales Inquiry's return sets out the Council's responses regarding processes for financial reporting, fraud prevention and compliance with laws and regulations for the 23-24 financial statements, and the Annual Report and Audit Statement of Accounts provides the statutory year-end overview of the charity's operations and financial position, which the committee is asked to consider and recommend to Cabinet for approval and onward submission to the Charity Commission. I hope you don't mind, but I thought it was easier to give you the background to both of the following two reports rather than try and split them up. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so any hands up on this one, please? I have got, excuse me, I'm in the wrong, looking at the chat. So Joe Williams had said, or Mark, would you like to come in first before the questions or afterwards from Audit Wales?
Yeah, I was just going to make a suggestion. I'm joined today, by the way, by my colleagues Kath Watts and Vaughan Davis. And Vaughan was going to talk to the report initially, and then we would take any questions. So it's what the committee's preference is. You could hear from us as well, and then take questions, or you could have questions on Leanne's presentation, and then we'll cover our part. So the choice is yours, really. What you think will work best.
Joe and John, are you happy to wait till after Audit Wales have done their presentation for your questions, or do you want to ask now?
I'm quite happy to wait.
Thank you, John. Joe,
and me, Chair. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks very much. Please go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, and I'll pass to Vaughan, who's going to talk to the report. And as I say, we're happy to take any questions at that point alongside Leanne and Nicola.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Mark. Good afternoon, committee. Thank you for your time today. I'll largely take our report as read. I'll briefly summarise some key matters. I appreciate Leanne's already covered some as well. But yeah, we're willing to answer any questions at the end. So yeah, as background, obviously this year was the first year of full audit, with the Art Centre previously having been subject to limited independent examinations. These are very much light touch audits, and so they don't provide any audit opinions. They rather identify matters of concern. This was previously done in prior years in relation to cash, and that was one of the reasons this year why we've had to issue our disclaimer of opinion. If I may draw your attention to the report itself, so on page 6 of the report, so that I think that's page 156 of your agenda reports pack today, you'll find our audit at a glance, and that confirms there that we intend to issue a disclaimer of opinion, and it also confirms that there's 3 significant matters to report which relate to those issues that have led to our disclaimer of opinion today. This on page 158 of your agenda report packs, that's where you'll then find our explanation of those 3 areas that have led to the disclaimer of opinion. You will note that final reason, as briefly mentioned by Leanne, was due to income. So we identified income as an initial risk when planning our audit. Specifically in relation to the accounting of income relating to grant income. We're pleased to say that whilst there were issues with the accounting of arts and theatre income, actually our work relating to grants income found that there was no misclassification of grant income or income not being used in accordance with the grant conditions in place. So that specifically relates to income in relation to Arts Council Wales income, which going forward may of course make up a significant amount of Blackwood Arts Centre income should a alternative operating model be pursued. Leanne has already highlighted the 5 recommendations that we've proposed. They are in Appendix 5 on page 176 of your agenda reports pack. These have been agreed with officers. So yeah, I think finally that then I'd just like to quickly say as well, we'd like to put on record our thanks to both Blackwood Arts Council and council officers involved. I'm sure they'll appreciate that it's been a bit of a challenging audit, but they have remained cooperative and professional throughout. And yeah, so we would just like to say a big thank you there for helping us get this across the line. So yeah, we advise that you recommend to Cabinet that they approve the charity set of accounts for 2023-24. And as Mark said earlier, we're happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you, Vaughan. So therefore, for the questions, currently hand up just from Councillor John Taylor, please start us off.
Yes, my question is, if we're not able to establish the Blackwood Miners Institute's own sort of cash, because it's in with the council stuff, does that still satisfy Charity Commission law? I appreciate that, that I'm not suggesting there's anything untoward going on at Blackwood Miners Institute, but does that mean that the council as trustee of Blackwood Miners Institute are still complying with charity law when submitting the accounts to the Charity Commission? I appreciate there may not be anybody who has expertise in charity law.
Yeah, I mean the one thing from an audit perspective, because we're not the lawyers, but from an audit perspective, the one thing that the auditor has to do when there's a modified opinion, and this is a modified opinion, is to write to once the Auditor General has certified the account, which is scheduled to happen on Friday, subject to what this committee and Cabinet tomorrow determine in terms of approving. But we are required to write to alongside the certified accounts. We're required to write with a covering letter and the report attached. So the report that you're getting today, which is a public document anyway through this committee, the report that you're getting today will be sent to the Charity Commission. As an auditor, not a lawyer, I'm not aware of any legal problems in terms of any aspects in our report, but we are obviously focusing on the accounts and those accounts being true and fair and so forth. And as said, we've got a disclaimer opinion for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else want to come in on that question? Or
I'll just come in.
Please.
Oh, is that okay?
Please. Sorry, I'm just being lost here with the technology again, I'm afraid.
Oh,
sorry, Chair.
We can hear you, Joe. If you want to ask a question.
Yes, I'm kind of half talking to myself. I was trying to raise my hand, but it just isn't working. I don't quite know what's going on. If I may come in at this point, hopefully I'm not cutting across anyone else. I think this is quite, I was going to ask the same question that John has asked actually, and it's an important one, very important one for the council as the corporate trustee. I think we need to seek some advice on this. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe John, you could recommend how do we go about that, and we need to do that, but urgently, I would say. The second point I would have is I would just wanted to know a little bit more then about, and again, I'm not sure if Mark and Vaughan can comment on this really either, but what is the implication of this for both the charity and the authority? What is the implication of having a disclaimer on the audited accounts, which is a legal requirement? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, a disclaimer opinion is one of the options in the relevant auditing standard. So it's there amongst other options. I won't go through those options now, but it's part of the international auditing standards, or the ICES, as they know, the international standards on auditing. So that's what we audit to, and that's where the outcome of the audit has kind of concluded. When there's any type of modified opinion, we have a mandated internal process that we have to go through, and there's 2 levels to that. So this audit would have gone through those 2 levels, and there are lots of checks and balances within that process. So we are very focused on the 23-24 accounts. That's where our focus has been and is. Some of your questions might be looking a little bit more further down the line to kind of the future of the Arts Centre and the upcoming accounts, which Leanne touched on earlier, 24, 25, 25, 26. But we're having followed those international standards on auditing. We've come to our opinion following due process, and that's what we are presenting to you today. Beyond that, it's probably for officers to come in on maybe other aspects of your question.
Thanks, Mark. I think Leanne would like to come in.
Thank you. So, like we said, we can't do anything about looking backwards. All I can do is correct it going forward. So we have agreed with the recommendations put forward by Audit Wales, and we are looking to set up the charity with their own bank account. So just to be clear, the ledger, all the the accounting transactions are completely separate. They have their own coding structure within Caerphilly's ledger, but what they don't have is their own bank account. So the bit that we can't determine is the balance sheet, and it's the cash equivalent in it. So we can't determine an opening cash balance. So that's the recommendation, and we will be accepting that, and we'll be looking to set up their own bank account moving forwards. And as I said in my opening statement, they are looking at the future operating model for this, and it's gone out for a feasibility study. So those recommendations will be addressed going forward, but unfortunately it does mean that for 24, 25 and 25, 26, we still won't be able to change that position.
So sorry, Chair. So Leanne, are you saying that for the, let me get my years right, 24, 25 and 25, 26 accounts, probably there will be a similar opinion from the external auditor on this charity? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely, because we want the BMI does not have its own bank account. So we cannot move that forward, and the 24, 25 accounts and the 25, 26 accounts, it's too late in the day now for me to be able to change it. So we are looking at that to bring it in for the 26, 27 account. There are recommendations that we can move forward on. I don't know if Nick can put them out, or Audit Wales have probably got them to hand. So we did a reply, but in terms of the bank account, obviously that has to be set up. That will take time, so that will not be sorted until 26, 27 accounts.
And why? Can I ask just another question? There's every answer that's given leads to another question, I think. Why are we so late in the day in having these accounts audited? Do you know?
So I think, like we said, it's the first year that they've had to have a full audit. So historically, because they hadn't reached the Charity Commission threshold, they were having this independent examination. The full audit is much more detailed and involved. So obviously we had to put that into Audit Wales schedule. I don't know if Mark, you'd like to come in on that?
Yeah, there's been many years. In Leanne's covering paper, it makes clear that this charity goes back in its current state, if you like, to 1990. That's many years, and it's had limited assurance. We haven't got records going back to 1990. Our archiving doesn't need to go back that far. But for many years, there's been these limited assurance audits under the rules and the Charity Commission kind of thresholds and so forth. And then a full audit comes along, and when you have the full audit, it is finding these issues, and there is a big difference between the full the full audit and the independent examination, which is not an opinion-based audit. We don't give an opinion when we do that audit. It's a different kind of output that goes in those accounts. So I think that is a fact. I think that is a factor, that there's been decades really of independent examinations. The year where Leanne said 2026, 27 is when things should come good, or officers expected to come good. The Charity Commission's threshold for that set of accounts goes up from £1 million to £1.5 million. So we don't know the future, but the threshold for that year does increase. So hypothetically, you could get to 26, 27, and then the Charity Commission rules find that you haven't got a full audit. That's a possibility. So we can't crystal ball gaze too much, but it's Leanne's opinion, which sounds reasonable, is that 24, 25 and 25, 26, these issues may still be there. They may, some of them probably can't be tackled, and some of them are probably a bit more deep rooted.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks. And the next question is from Mr. Nigel Yates, please. No.
Hi, Mark and Vaughan. Very good work. Horrendous amount of work, it looks like to me. You had to sort out there. Thank you for that. I was thinking of the future. Is there any way that, as it's a charity, is there any way we can alleviate the work that you have to do for this body by taking any outside help?
I mean, in terms of the audit, the answer is probably no. I guess the alleviating is the Charity Commission thresholds for full audit. So if you're below the threshold, there's a far lighter level of audit. So the Charity Commission is aiming to get a balance on how much audit is needed, depending on how big the charity is. So, but in terms of our audit, there's probably no help needed in that area, other than, of course, the help of officers, because an audit is only facilitated by officers, which as Vaughan reiterated, and we say in the report itself, we like to thank officers for all their help and etc. throughout the audit. Arts Centre staff and council staff, and that's the help we need, really, is that engagement from officers, and that's certainly what we've been getting.
It looks like to me that this is going to go on for another year at least, isn't it? As things bed in with your discoveries, as it were. Obviously, things will settle down in about 2 years, I should think, and hopefully they'll get on the right path then. Thank you for that.
So, I just had one sort of question. You mentioned that prior to the full audit done that we have now, there was an independent examinations being done. Who or what organisation conducted those previous independent examinations? Because I'm just curious as to why the issues raised by this one about the independent bank account, to be able to identify then, was it the cash, the non-cash, etc., starting balances, wasn't spotted earlier. I'm a historian by trade, so I'm really interested in that. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the insurance then of these issues are resolved going forwards. But how did they happen in the first place?
So it was identified in the independent examination as well. So it's been there. So it was highlighted. But this is the first year where it's required the full audit. Mark, I don't know again if you want to come in and add to that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going back many years to 1990, as we understand it, there was Audit Wales auditing it. There was a period of many years where Grant Thornton were auditing on behalf of Audit Wales, and before Grant Thornton there was PwC auditing on behalf of Wales, and before PwC there was Audit Wales auditing it. And if you keep going back, you'll have the audit Commission. So there's been there's been a string of auditors in that sense, yeah, I understand your question and take your point. I guess as has been said a few times, the limited assurance audit is a light touch, but yeah, I think there's a reasonable point there, and it could have been even with a limited assurance audit, it could have been picked up sooner, back years prior. But when we picked up the audit 4 or 5 years ago now, that's
is now exiting.
Oh, not sure what that's. Please continue, Mark. Hopefully,
yeah. I think I'd finished there in answer to that last question, if that helps.
Yeah, so I've got, so that it was identified as an issue, but then it wasn't sort of pursued or promoted as a formal recommendation. Oh, Mark, come in, please.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. I think one of the key issues here that we shouldn't lose sight of is the council were always subsidising Blackwood Miners Institute at quite significant sums. Yes. And when that became unaffordable with current financial pressures, that's when a fresh look was kind of fresh pair of eyes was looked at. So it wasn't a concern previously. They were basically, although operating as a charity with the cabinet acting as trustees, they were essentially part of the council staff on our payroll. Council was subsidising any overspend or any failure to reach income targets, etc. But with that transformation programme, when it became one of the projects to be looked at, then obviously decoupling it from the authority's payroll, the authority's HR structure, etc., became more of an issue. And I think that's why, or one of the reasons why this has come to the fore as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody. And Joe's put something in the chat because I know she's had connection and all sorts of issues. Sadly, Joe's had to leave the meeting because she's lost her phone connection. But Joe, if you're still hearing, hope you can add any questions that you might have had for a written response from the officers on the items that you'll miss. But thank you very much indeed for your contribution this afternoon, and we look forward to hearing you in much better terms at a later date. We've now got Leanne's hand up again.
Thank you. I do just need to give a verbal update that we will need to circulate the appendix of the accounts again because there has been a date change, but it came after we'd circulated the paper, so we will make sure we circulate it so you have the right version.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. And so we are now asked to endorse the response appended to the report. We've all had a chance to go through that and ask the questions you did. So therefore, would somebody please move and second? So
move,
Councillor Mike, you first up to move. And would somebody like to second, please?
Second, I do. Thank
you, Nigel. Therefore, we should have, if I can find the right page, have the vote here. And yes, with Joe not with us, that's passed now, hasn't it? And the next item is now the Blackwood Miners Institute annual report and statement of accounts for year ending the 31st of March 2024. So Leanne again to present.
Yes, we've just covered both reports. So the first one I think you were asked to note, and this one you're being asked to endorse. Is that right? I can't find the recommendations.
I've got the number 10, Blackwood, the inquiries returned to endorse the response.
Endorse. Okay, yeah, and then the recommendations for the statement of accounts. Because we've covered both the reports.
We haven't. Nobody's got any additional questions. Yeah, I'm just checking in. Nobody's got any questions on item 11. No, we're all happy from the previous debate. Lovely then. So yes, could we have another mover and seconder? Please, somebody to move. Mike Adams to move. Second. And thank you very much, Mr. Nigel Yates to second. And so we have a separate vote now on item 11. We've had 6 votes. We had 7 last time. Is somebody not able to vote who would like to? Oh no, we've got 7 now. It was without Jo because she's left. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Leanne, and to Audit Wales, to Mark and Vaughan. Thank you very much for your answering the questions and presenting those reports.
Thank you.
For the last items on our agenda, 12 and 13, they've not been called in for discussion. That was the officers' declarations of gifts and hospitality, July to September 25, and the regulator proposals tracker progress update. Let me put my teeth in for that one. So therefore, there's no debate for those. We can just note them as noted. Therefore, this is the end of our agenda. I would like to thank everyone for attending this afternoon's Governance and Audit Committee, and I can declare the meeting closed. Members attending remotely